Okay, looks like we've got some participants rolling. Hi, everybody. I'm Andrew Waltz at NTC Foundation, Director of Programs. Thank you for joining us tonight. We're joined tonight by Benito Bautista, Executive Director and Co-founder of San Diego Filipino Cinema, and Linda Caballero Sotelo, Executive Director and Chief Curator at the New Americans Museum. Thank you for spending some time with us tonight, everybody. I also want to mention a couple quick notes before we get into the discussion, but thank you for spending some time with us tonight. Also, thank you very much to our event and program sponsor, the City of San Diego, Commission for Arts and Culture. They've been wonderful supporters of us over the last number of years, so couldn't do this without their continued support. Also, thank you for those who are joining live on Facebook or on YouTube. Please make sure you hit subscribe, like this video, and comment so we can know about what you're interested in and do more of this programming in the future. Also, just a quick update or reminder, Arts District is open. There's art, music, dance, dining happening, all outdoors, safely, responsibly. So I encourage everybody to come out and see what's happening at the Arts District in person. There's an outdoor art installations at the station program. You can just wander and explore and find some amazing new art that's being commissioned every year for that program all over campus. Also, you can dedicate a rose bush to Mom for the Mother's Day. There's a rose bush garden at the Sybil Stockdale Rose Garden right in the heart of the Arts District. And for a $500 donation, this meaningful tribute you'll have as a personal message on a commemorative plaque right there in the garden. So it's a great place to just be reflective and see the roses blossom every year and check that out. It's a great way to dedicate something to your mother or to a loved one in your family. Also, we have an amazing new program, the Arts District, the NTC Foundation Arts District Collaborative Project, where each year we help fund creative new collaborative projects amongst many of the creative groups happen in Arts District Liberty Station. So we'll be making a big announcement in early May about 6 new great projects that are going to be moving forward, and I hope everybody can tune in. You can find out more about it by joining our mailing list to get the update on those projects. There are a couple of leased opportunities on campus, so please check out our website if you're interested in finding a creative space here at Arts District. Let's see, and just stay connected with us, like us and follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and sign up for our newsletter. And all those links will be in the chat box below. With that, I'd like to introduce Benito and Linda. Hi, everybody. Benito is an award-winning Filipino filmmaker based right here in San Diego. His passion to tell underrepresented global stories through the film medium is his focus. And he believes in the power of cinema to entertain, inspire, incubate creative, critical thinking and stories to kind of help engender pride of heritage. So such a wonderful, just fulfilling area of focus there. I'd also want to gush a little bit on this. He has 2 really great feature documentaries, The Gift of Borong, A Journey from Within, and Harana, The Search for the Lost Art of Serenade. Both have screened and garnered amazing awards from across the country. And so I just encourage everybody to check those out, and I'm sure he'll tell us a little bit more about those and where you can go see those. Linda is the Executive Director and Chief Curator at the New Americans Museum, also a first-generation immigrant born and raised in Tijuana, Mexico. She's deeply committed to the advancement of all immigrants in all backgrounds, believing in the power of civic engagement as a catalyst for integration, inclusion, celebration of immigrants, and their contributions into the American experience. So we have, I think, a really fun, engaging conversation kind of queued up for tonight. I want to thank both of you for making some time for us. If either of you like to jump in and say a little bit more about your background before we get going. I welcome that.
You go, Linda. Yes.
Oh my gosh. I always love to listen to Benito. We were just saying earlier how his energy and his passion for the work is really a gift. And I want to start by just acknowledging and thanking Liberty Station and NTC Foundation and everybody involved, Andrew, every single person that worked so hard to bring these programs to life. Gosh, you know, we are an ecosystem, we're a community, not only Liberty Station, but throughout our region, our binational region. And now since we've been facing the last 18 months, the last year, certainly with this pandemic and the unique challenges and the pain and the learning that we've all encountered, what better time than for us to get together and just share some of the lessons learned, some of the hard lessons, some of the hopeful ones, and where we can move forward as partners in community. That's why we thought that today was such a great time for us to get together and chat. A little bit about myself. I'm the executive director, as you heard, of the New Americans Museum and Immigrant Learning Center. I've been in that role for nearly 7 years at Liberty Station. I am absolutely delighted and very proud. And, you know, I feel like there are no accidents. You know, we have gone, like many organizations, through our ups and downs, trying to really implement our mission in a very meaningful way. And in this past year, we've really looked at ways to go deeper into the work. You heard earlier that I'm originally from Mexico, from Tijuana. I'm a binational, bicultural, cross-border citizen, like many of you, multi-generational. And I feel really privileged to live in this place at this time with so many friends and colleagues to get us through these times and thrive into the future. So with that, I'll turn it over to my friend and colleague Benito, and then we'll continue chatting a little bit more.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you for having us, Andrew, again. NTC Arts District, NTC Foundation and Arts District. Thank you for having Linda and me in this inaugural Creative Conversations. It's always inspiring for me to sit down and dialogue and converse, whatever topic it may be, you know, with Linda. I always get ideas. It's a very kindred spirit and synergy and mutual respect and admiration for the work that Linda does for the community and also for NTC and Arts District. And so again, I'm like what Andrew mentioned, I'm Benito Bautista. I'm the executive director and co-founder of San Diego Filipino Cinema. Our nonprofit is dedicated to the amplification and representation of the Filipino perspectives and design in cinema. But at the same time, we are also dedicated in nurturing and guiding younger generation Filipino-American filmmakers within San Diego. But at the same time, we're also looking at ways wherein we can, highlight other perspectives, from the diverse community, and also look for collaborative projects that we can learn from. So again, thank you for having us.
Oh, thank you both. I think I've had such a pleasure to work with you both over the last couple of years and collaborate with you. But I think just to help also introduce the audience a little bit to your medium of choice, I just think it's really, there's just a certain amount of, I think, similarity and kismet to how you both present your craft of telling human stories, but one through film and one through kind of a museum experience. And they both have complementary components, but maybe if you could just give us a little bit of insight on why you chose that specific medium to help tell the stories that you feel inspired by.
You want to go, Linda?
You start this time, Benito.
Okay, I'll start. Yeah. Well, thank you. Well, I'm an independent filmmaker, and I worked in the American film industry in the Bay Area. So, and at the same time, while working in the American film industry, I volunteered in so many different organizations. In media, in teaching at-risk kids, and volunteering with the senior citizens of the Filipino American community in the Bay Area, and at the same time making films and developing and producing films. So when we moved to San Diego, the first thing we noticed is, because we're part of the San Diego Asian Film Festival, the first thing we noticed is that the Filipino community is the largest in Asian ethnicity, and there is no focus in our amplification of our own cinema and learning from the perspectives. And so we wanted to go in depth into presenting compelling films and also learning from the perspectives and designs of the global Filipino filmmakers, and at the same time to awaken and inspire younger generations of Filipino American filmmakers. What's amazing is that growing up as a Filipino artist, we're always not pressured, but almost swayed in the idea that it's not the arts that you should go to. It's not the arts that you should be inspired in terms of making it as a profession. And so the younger generation creatives, they don't have a lot of inspiration to look at. And so we wanted to change that. And so the San Diego Filipino Cinema is a platform where you can actually look at the real live filmmaker, a writer, a director of photography in the film industry. And you will realize, if you're a parent or a member of the community, you will realize that it's okay to be an artist. It's okay to be a filmmaker, a writer, a director of photography. It's a highly specialized profession, and there's going to be a lot of challenges, but you will prevail. It will be beautiful, and yeah. So that's what we do. Go ahead, Linda.
One of the things that strikes me as I'm listening to Benito speak, and I believe someone had asked what his last name was, Bautista, Benito Bautista, is that we're really about storytelling, right? It's about honoring the stories that all of us carry with us, have carried with us multi-generationally, or are uncovering or finding now, and trying to make sense of owning our voice and being able to tell our own stories. And I think the different mediums that we each use to do that, and the safe spaces that we open up for that to happen, are the most critical aspect of it. Whether the storytelling happens through an oral archive where people come in and share their story of all ages, their story of multi-generational migration, whether it's first or second generation or long ago, what traditions have been maintained or what new ones are being rediscovered, or whether it's through exhibitions, photography, performance, all aspects of the visual and performing arts. I mean, film is such a powerful tool that we escape for a moment, if you will, a moment in time where it becomes universal, those themes. And that's one of the reasons why our work resonates so much with organizations and partners like Benito's, because they really take time to dig deep into a story and to honor that story. And that's what we've been working on at the New Americans Museum all these years, is to allow folks a space where they can tell that story, where they can learn how to tell it, whether it's an artist, an immigrant artist, or an artist that works with immigrant populations, curators, and other practitioners, to use our spaces and our platform to be able to amplify those voices, as Benito so eloquently shared earlier. So that's the work that we do through exhibitions, through a variety of programming. Over the last year, and you'll hear probably more about this, we've had to really rethink how we're doing some of this work, given what we've all been facing. But it's part of the journey as well. As multi-generational Americans, we're very resilient, and we find ways to, as we hear, pivot and retool and reimagine and reinvent. And I think that having platforms and avenues to do that, I know that Benito, we partnered in the past to host these workshops for folks to become their own storytellers, filmmakers, and it has opened up doors and spaces for many to share their stories. So we're really interested in, more than ever, to talk about the issues of diversity, inclusion, race issues that we haven't dealt with, structural racism in our country, access to all those issues, and to use our spaces and our platforms to do that.
That's beautiful. Yeah. One of the things I think that really resonates with me as I kind of watch some of the films and walk through the gallery space, is that there's just a very strong sense of, describing, the diaspora that folks live through, or the storytelling that's, prominent aspect of communicating with generations or the community, and maybe like less so a creative narrative, fiction versus nonfiction, if you will. And so I'm curious, with that focus, what do you hope that the viewers walk away with? Because I know that when I walk through there, I become informed. Sometimes, I'll feel moved. Learning is a huge sense of it, but so I take away those certain narratives and how I think and feel after I've experienced one of these. But what do you really hope at the core that a viewer does with that experience?
Go.
No, you go.
Oh, I think that for us, the fundamental piece is for folks to see themselves reflected on some level. We all feel isolation in some regards. We all feel maybe displacement, whatever that might be, physical, emotional, spiritual, geographic. Whether we move from another country or another neighborhood or another state, you're reawakening, reconnecting with a new community, and that comes with its own challenges of connecting with that community. So we hope that when folks go through our experiences, whether it's exhibitions or talks or what have you, is that they feel themselves reflected in some way, that they connect with the themes that are universal, that it's not about them and us, but it's really about us connected as human beings, as a community, a global community. So we really strive to do that, to speak in general terms and not just identity terms, even though those are reflected, and that's how we connect, right? But we want folks to see themselves reflected in some way. And it might be a small way or it might be a huge way. Not every exhibition or every experience resonates with everyone, but there is, I believe, like in film, there's something for everyone. And it's a matter of having an open heart. I always say that we're not in the business of changing people's minds anymore. We're really in the business of changing people's hearts and opening their hearts to each other, that understanding and connection. And we really believe that our newest generations and our kids and our youth and our younger generations are at the heart of that. They see things in ways that some of us have been stuck, so they inform the work that we do, and we're going to look to them even more in communities of color to be more participatory, and especially in some of the worlds that we live in the visual arts and in the museum world, which can be sometimes very exclusive or rarefied or not accessible to communities of color. Well, we're really trying to break through that one day at a time. So we hope folks walk away with that sense.
I totally agree with what Linda said. That's why I love Linda. She inspires me. I always learn something new from Linda. So as a filmmaker, when we make films, the intention is actually to put a mirror in front of the audience, and to, like what Linda said, to hopefully the audience will find themselves embedded in the film, and to see something that is familiar, and to see something that might be different in their existence, or now when a filmmaker, the moment a filmmaker releases the film, which is the absolute art form, it no longer is the ownership of the filmmaker. It becomes the ownership of every single person that will participate and engage in the film that has been presented. Now, because of that, your ownership now becomes open to your own interpretation. So you might not be right in the interpretation of the film. And the only way to somehow figure out a pathway to understanding the very philosophy that's embedded in the development of that film, you know, is to get an added value perspective from the filmmaker himself or herself. So when we share a film, we always hope that we bring in the filmmaker so that we can learn, you know, the philosophy, the process, the practice, the, you know, the symbols that have been used, and the interpretation, you know, that the filmmaker would like to present. And yeah, so the takeaways, it's so funny. Linda mentioned about the shifting of, you know, of programming. Films were never really intentionally made for a personal viewing. It's not. It's a 20th century, you know, and now a very virtual, you know, experience. It's not, because you want to be able to share that energy. You want to be able to say, yes, that energy that you're feeling, it's the same energy I'm feeling from this film. Or we might have an argument, you know, because of that. But it's instant. It's very instant, you know, and you are really going to journey into the discovery of the very core of what the film is all about, all the way until the finishing credits. It will never happen in a virtual, you know, personal viewing, because you're all alone, you know, and for the most part, you will be interrupted and distracted by a lot of stuff. So yeah, I hope that it will change eventually, and we will open again, and we will celebrate cinema like how we celebrate cinema. So yeah. And like this, I wanna hug all of you. I wanna hug Andrew. I wanna hug Linda and say yes, you know, and yeah. But yeah, here we are right now.
Yeah, no, I love that, and it just makes me think about again. It's similar. It's an interesting two sides of the coin with how you present your medium, but there's such a different kind of how the audience engages with your art form, and and I think it's just interesting having seen, even in some cases, some of your films, Benito, screened in Linda's gallery, and it's just, sometimes it meshes together. But can you describe what really you look at for that successful interaction, whether it's the engagement in your preferred medium, or now just what we're kind of all kind of working through and evolving through in this kind of Zoom era?
So there's the trick there, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the tricky part, because we are so used to being in a space where we see the reaction, whether it's in a film, or whether it's in the physical spaces, or in the public spaces, if it's public art or what have you. And now, one of the things that we've learned for sure, that I've certainly learned over the last year in speaking to colleagues across the country and across the world doing this kind of work, is you cannot continue doing the same kind of work and expect a different outcome, right? If we expect to engage audiences and have conversations with them in the format that we've been hosting, face-to-face, getting real time, it's not going to work, and if we're doing things, in digital spaces, and if we're having other kinds of conversations, you have to adapt everything that you do to that space. It's not going to be for everyone, but guess what? It's also new audiences in different ways. So I can't tell you the feedback, the types of feedback we're getting back, which I find really interesting. They're very personal. I mean, there are texts. Sometimes folks find my cell phone or whatever, and they give very specific feedback that in the past folks wouldn't do in person. Folks will not tell you to your face, this sucks. Very few will say, yeah, this doesn't ring true to me. They'll say, it's not my cup of tea, or that's not my kind, whatever, I don't get it, or whatever it might be. But and I really appreciate that, they will tell you straight out everything. They will say, you know what, this didn't work. Do better. Have you thought about doing this? Have you talked? And it's, and I welcome that, because if we are really going to reimagine the work that we're doing around social justice, around democracy building, around, you know, human relations with each other, then we have to be open to deliver them in whatever format folks want. And guess what? And this is something that we've talked about before, Benito and I, and also with you, Andrew, is that before we were so limited and confined for so long,
Yeah.
This is our audience. This is our geographic kind of footprint. And who told us we had to be that way, right? You know, we just did that to ourselves. All of a sudden, it's wide open. You know, programming and things we've commissioned are worldwide potentially, right? Because when we talk about the issues of displacement, immigration, movement, you know, the refugee crisis, all kinds of things, put politics aside for a second and just talk about the human condition. These are issues that have affected us forever all over the world, right? We're part of this cycle of an ecosystem of movement of people for all the reasons that our ancestors moved here, you know, for opportunity, for safety, for economic empowerment, for, you know, freedom, for religious freedom, personal freedom, all kinds of things. Those things haven't changed. We've just compartmentalized them, right? They apply to us when we get to a border. But now, where are those borders, right? Folks are so eager to meet, connect with each other. You know, we get calls in some of our programming from across the world. And I was saying to Andrew, I can't, sometimes I'm just floored that people are calling at 3 o'clock in the morning. And then I remind myself, oh, I set up an alarm for me to, you know, listen to this person talk at 2 in the morning. It's like we push those barriers that we set up for ourselves as different, as unique, as other, into, I think, a much more cohesive possibility. We're not naive. We understand that, and we know firsthand that there is so much work for us to still do around the issues that really affect our communities, our country, the structural issues of racism and inequality. And so that also informs the work. It's in the back of our minds more than ever. How do folks experience the work? You know what, Andrew, it remains to be seen. You know, we're still hearing, and we're being very flexible, which I think we have both the luxury and the privilege to be when you're a smaller institution. You know, even when we've been closed, we've been open by appointment. If somebody really feels compelled to see our immigrant veterans exhibit, which we extended, because why not, right? I mean, it's mounted in the gallery. What's the point of taking that down right now? If we're commissioning other kinds of works digitally. So I think we've been given this real opportunity, a passport to sit back and go, what do we do? And, you know, on that point, after Benito shares his impressions as well, we are going to share a very short video from some of our students that visited the museum right before the pandemic, right? And we were really hosting close to 10,000 students per year of all ages, of all backgrounds, and during alternative spring breaks, during internships with local schools, all kinds of things. And many of them students of color, students from across the country. And one particular group that comes from a university did a little video for us at the end on what they saw our institution really being about. And we wanted to share that with you. But I invite Benito to share some thoughts about this last question with Andrew and how we're presenting our projects, how you're presenting your projects as well before we see the video.
Well, first of all, I just want to say that, you know, Linda's museum, the New Americans Museum, is on the first floor. We're on the second floor. So as I go up to our office, our first visit is the New Americans Museum. You know, and I've seen the exhibit. Sometimes I've seen the exhibit every day, you know, but I always go in for inspiration. I always go in somehow to find clarity, you know, to find direction in programming, to find ideas on how we are going to move forward in other programmings, on how we're going to shift our programmings, how are we going to open up our programmings. Now, before COVID, like Linda, we're all about live. And somehow we are, you know, our offerings are for the San Diego community, you know, and sometimes LA community as well. But when we went into, the COVID experience, we now all of a sudden shifted into digital space. Now, something about the digital space, this is not something new. It's been used before COVID. It's like a mountain that you always see, but you never walk into, right? It's there. We never use it because we never really want to discover it. And so now you have no, there's no other way. You have to really walk up that mountain. And so that's what we did. It was a sense of discovery. We were having a mild heart attack, because cinema, like what I mentioned before, it's all about live interaction and engagement, and that's how we want to continue it in a purest way, and how we want to exhibit it at the same time and experience its transformative impact. But when we shifted to digital space, we realized that now, aside from just discovering San Diego, like what Linda mentioned, it just went beyond. Now we are in digital space. Our programming, we have people, coming in from the Philippines. We have people coming in from Canada. We have people coming in from UK in our event. It would not have happened without the digital space. So it's a programming that is really sort of a discovery, but at the same time, a blessing, if I might say, and we, as much as we are informing and sharing ideas, we are also learning a lot from the worldwide ideas that we get and we absorb. And so, yes. But I go to New Americans Museum for inspiration.
I couldn't echo that anymore. I feel like, obviously pre-COVID, I was, our offices were just down the way from that area. And so I'd walk in there and kind of reflect almost like a temple experience. And I know sometimes there's the altar, and but yeah, it's a great place of reflection and creativity, and and then you cross paths with creative people, and there you are. So it's a great spot to be in. But I couldn't tell you how much I empathize too, and can echo the sense of pre-pandemic programming, and the stuff that we would do at the Arts District between concerts and art walks, and you'd walk across and see people in person, and somebody put their hand on your shoulder and just say, hey, this is great. I feel moved. I met somebody. We had a great collaborative experience or something. And while that in-person stuff is kind of not happening, or happening kind of at a much lower rate at this point, I can't tell you how often, those phone calls come in, or the emails, or there's just new networks, and you can just log in and listen to people chat, and they're on different time zones across the country, and so it's just been eye-opening as a program creator to just be connected with folks, and just kind of keep working on the craft, and keep working on how you communicate those narratives. It's just such an inspiring time to be in, and know that your audience is there looking for it, because they kind of have to be, or so you have a captive audience right now. With all, so let's show your quick your students' video. Okay, 1 second. I'm gonna see if I can pull this up. Bear with me. Can you see that?
What does it mean to be an American?
¿Qué significa ser un americano?
做美國人係咩意思呢？
എന്താണ് ഒരു അമേരിക്കൻ ശരിക്കും?
New Americans Museum serves as a catalyst to celebrate America's diversity, the value of its immigrant roots, and the richness of a nation composed of many cultures. The museum is committed to fostering greater appreciation and understanding as a way to achieve harmony, acceptance, and inclusion amongst all San Diegans. Everyone has a story to share, and New Americans Museum provides a window into a new and transformative American way of life. Come discover how leaving one's homeland for a new one takes courage, endurance, humility, and grit.
It's beautiful.
Thank you. We wanted to share that with everyone because, we miss hosting you at our spaces, and on the campus of Liberty Station. And it gives you like a little glimpse of not very long ago when we just didn't even think twice about walking into spaces and going into other places. So I just can't wait, to be able to see all of you both there and in other public spaces. But I love how they were just so free with it, with their experience.
We'll be back soon. So I think we were chatting a while back, and there was an idea that kind of came up, where there's kind of a yin and yang to this idea of reinvention or resilience versus maybe a pivoting narrative. And I'm just kind of curious to explore this kind of reactive versus this conscious effort to be in the moment and kind of be receptive to what what feels successful with your audience. And I'm curious if you can kind of just talk about that a little bit about, there's maybe a need to necessarily pivot, but there's also, probably a way that why your organizations are so successful is that there's this, element of reinvention that seems ever present.
You go, Benito.
Okay, I'll start. We'll talk about how we navigate, sort of, as a nonprofit organization, you have a dedicated mission, you have a mission and vision. This is sort of your guiding principles, your guiding light, your core. But, and like what Linda mentioned, it's very important, is we have to look somehow beyond what we intend to do and realize that, the world, the society needs our work in different places. And so we look, to collaborate, with other organizations to somehow learn from more perspectives beyond the things that we planned or we dedicate ourselves. In this case, a good example is, like we mentioned earlier, the San Diego Philippine cinema, it's very almost self-explanatory. It is a presentation of the arts and culture, stories and perspectives of the global Filipino, presented by the global Filipino filmmakers. And it doesn't have to be a Filipino-centric story or film. It can be any other story anywhere in the world, but the DNA that put together that story and development and the production came from a Filipino heritage filmmaker. And so that is very important to us. We want to make sure that we learn from that. And we show that to the diverse community, but also to our community for inspiration and support, so that the stories will carry on and continue developing, and we all learn from that. Now, but like what I mentioned earlier, we look at other ideas and issues surrounding us aside from what we dedicate ourselves to do. And in finding those, we realize that there are organizations that are connected to what we do. Like the New Americans Museum. From the get-go, New Americans Museum is a reflection of what we feel, for our society, what we feel for New Americans, what we feel for our world and community, and for the arts and for the stories and for the policymakers. And so in doing that, once in a while, Linda and I will, we'll chat about things, and our discussions will take us into our childhood experiences and our, discoveries of other stories from other people, through our travels. And one of those things, you know, came about, one of the programming that came about from that discussion is the program that we're about to present on May 29. And that is because of my conversation with Linda, that aside from presenting Filipino American as new immigrant filmmakers, we are going to bring in a Nigerian new immigrant filmmaker. It has nothing to do with the San Diego Filipino American Nigerian American cinema. No, it's a special screening. We are opening up our world, our nonprofit. It's about reinvention. It's repurposing, and that's a special screening. And nobody can really help us better than the New Americans Museum, because they really understand the very core of why we're doing it. So, and that's called the reinvention with new, partners. Yes, Linda.
Just to add a little bit more, I mean, we've always looked at our work as a collaboration with a whole host of different types of partners, not only in the arts and culture spaces, but in all the other spaces that nonprofits and other civic organizations serve, because we're serving the public, we're serving our fellow man and our neighbors and our friends as immigrants or multi-generational together, right? So we've always strived to partner with organizations that may be unsuspecting at first, like, what does that have to do with the art, or how are you connecting that storytelling? But you know what? The person that is offering the social services to a first generation family that knows their pain and their needs, they have a pulse and direct insight into that community. And for us, it's how do we highlight those stories? How do we celebrate the work of those organizations that are doing the necessary work, whether it's for advocacy or homelessness or health issues or education or a host of other issues. To us, everything is interconnected, all those stories. That's why we partner with a variety of organizations. And I mean, whether it's working with the community college district, when we've presented many times to their ESL classes or invited them as ambassadors in our exhibitions to learn about docent practices or curation. I mean, I think that there's all these opportunities for all our institutions to look outside of our day-to-day work and our boundaries and look for those opportunities to look at how we serve in different ways, through new eyes, through fresh eyes, and vice versa. So I think that's part of what we are committed to doing, especially moving forward, is these partnerships, these connections, celebrating their work. And that's one of the things that we are planning over the summer, when we can gather more freely outside as well, is to really honor the organizations that have been at the front lines during this pandemic, serving diverse communities, the communities that have been most affected by this pandemic, communities of color, folks that are service workers that are out there that, some of us are privileged and have the luxury of having been able to stay home and work remotely and so forth. Many did not. And those stories are also unique, as there are stories of an incredible work ethic, an incredible devotion to their adopted country in many cases. And need looks the same no matter what your background or your color is. When you don't have a place to live, or you don't have the best schools for your children or the best opportunities or what have you, those are things that connect us all. So for us, the pivot is really not even a pivot. It's really opening our arms wider and thinking outside the box, not just as a formal arts and culture institution, but an institution that cares about community. We've always been under the radar. Organizations and institutions like ours have been looked as niche institutions. Oh, they serve immigrants, or they serve what have you, just like an organization that is focused on a particular identity as a point of view. But it's so valuable to have that point of view, because those are not stories, those are not individuals or actors that have been part of the national history overall. So like Benito was saying, we want to be able to show our kids and others that there's a variety and a diversity of representation all across different sectors and disciplines, so that they're inspired to be able to participate and also compete in those environments, throw open those doors. And I think this is something that we all have an opportunity and frankly a duty to do now, is to really look inwardly and say, are we as inclusive, as participatory, as inviting, as understanding, as we can be, as we should be, as we're called to be? So that's the starting point for us. We're not rushing to, throw open the doors and say, a new exhibit, a new this. It's really introspection. It's really looking at every aspect of the work that we do, because not just because you're a diverse serving institution doesn't mean that you've incorporated all those practices in the work that you do. And we should, and we must, right? So we're looking inwardly very, very carefully. And institutions, nonprofits, I always say this, they require different kinds of leadership at different times to really reflect the needs of the time. And so nothing is off the table, or it shouldn't be off the table for any of our organizations when we look towards the future and what it will require for us to be a truly equitable society.
I love that. I think for both your art forms, there's just this capacity to lean into service and to being, use the term called to these to this narrative. And there are other institutions you can go to and you can just see and kind of let the art form wash over you, but these narratives kind of get into your core and kind of get you called to react and to take action in some occasions. So it's just really fulfilling to see that kind of happening in these projects. I wanted to make sure that we let the folks who are tuning in know there's a question about some upcoming programs, and so I think San Diego Filipino Cinema might have an event coming up next week, and just kind of want to make sure folks know about that and know how to join it.
Yes. So next week, April 27, we have The Unseen. It's food and Filipino films, and we're highlighting emerging Filipino-American filmmakers with their curated short films. And there will be 6 Filipino-American filmmakers present to do Q&A, and there will be Filipino food, at the same time. Yeah, but and yeah, it's a live event, and the purpose of and it's a social distancing live event on a limited capacity. And the reason we did this is because we want to support local business, but at the same time we want to highlight and present to you our emerging Filipino-American filmmakers that have been winning awards here and there, and their films are really great films. And so we wanted the community to see them, to dialogue with them, and at the same time to support the local business. It's sold out already, but you can it's sold out. We opened it, and the moment we opened it, it's on the 3rd day it's sold out. And so we had to go and do the tech, and we extended it to 10 more seats. And after that, on the 4th day, it's sold out again. So we could not offer anymore because, again, it's social distancing. So it's limited.
How much are the tickets?
It's $25, including the food, and a portion of the ticket goes to the filmmakers and also to the local business, Yeah.
Okay, so did you say you have 10 tickets? You have 10 tickets?
No, it's sold out. The 10 tickets.
Oh, it's sold out. Add another weekend. Add another day.
I know. We will probably do it again, but you can probably buy food from the restaurant, and maybe eat it in the car and watch the film on the side, but you cannot go in our designated place because it's social distancing. You know, we have a place for the audience. We measured, you know, stuff like that. And yeah, so it's, yeah. But
Where's it going to be
yeah,
at?
it's going to be a National City at Villa Manila restaurant, but outdoors. So the Villa Manila did a really fantastic job in decorating the place. You know, it's a really nice open area, you know, big screen and with a DJ and yes, and you have the filmmakers, you know, yeah. Yeah, so yeah.
Is there like an audience favorite that people get to vote on or something, anything like that?
Maybe that's a question, you know, yeah, we might ask or something. So yeah, yeah. So yep.
So we're getting a little short on time, but I want to make sure, if anybody in the audience has questions, please feel free to ask them. I'm trying to monitor the chat, so we'll ask the panelists any of the questions. But also, as we kind of look to see those kind of roll in, I'm also curious to hear about projects. And I know you kind of talked a little bit about some collaborative projects coming up, but just things that you're interested in. I mean, it seems like we're getting over this curve so soon that we're going to have back to any more traditional programming, but I'm sure we're going to continue with the other, you know, new programming that's evolved over the last year. So are there things that we should look out for, and where do we kind of, if it's not in the gallery, where do we find some of this, some of your projects?
Linda, you go first.
Well, there's some announcements coming up of some exciting things that we're really looking forward to being able to present over the summer and towards the end of the year. One of them, I'll just give like a little teaser, will be Artists and Curators of Color Fellowship, that we will announce several opportunities that will open up for curators and artists in residence of color for the next 18 months. So you'll be hearing about that as they will be planning programming. And this is across disciplines. So it will be in film. We've had a poet in residence in the past and in other spaces. And we'll send it out to our mail list. If you're not on our newsletter list, please get on it. You know, we're on Instagram and everything, and all the platforms, social media you can think of. On Facebook, or shoot us an email at contact@namuseum.org. We can put that in the chat as well, and we can get you on that list. We have 2 exhibits in the gallery currently. They have been by appointment. One of them is our Immigrant Veterans exhibit, which is an incredible tribute to immigrant veterans, and with photography by David Mong, which is spectacular. And we also have in our main gallery, which will be opening up more widely to the public in the next month or so, our Immigrant Women Rise, which is from our collection of images from the Union Tribune exhibition we did a year and a half ago, celebrating notable immigrants from San Diego, with audio stories and their images. But also we're commissioning 2 murals by female immigrant artists that will be in the galleries as well as inspiration. So those will be open door as soon as we have more access. It's starting to open up, but also by appointment for those that feel more safe with less in the galleries. But we want to invite everybody to just stay connected to us. Things are changing and evolving very rapidly. I hope for Benito and I to be able to announce some other plans we have underway very soon, and some other collaborators. And we are very open to ideas and proposals and suggestions for the 2022 year as well. So with that, reach out to us.
Yes. So yeah, to learn more about, you know, upcoming events that we have in programming, subscribe to our newsletter. You know, so you can email us, Benito at SD Filipino Cinema, or info@sdfilipinocinema.org. But on May 29, we are going to have a special programming, and this is a special perspective film series, and it's in partnership with the New Americans Museum. Linda and I will be moderating. We are excited to present to you a Filipino-American new immigrant filmmaker, LGBTQ community, presenting a very compelling film So we are going to do that. It's going to be virtual, by the way, and we are going to have a Q&A. And at the same time, an award-winning Nigerian, new immigrant filmmaker from Nigeria with an award-winning film as well. And we are going to have a Q&A with him as well. So that's on May 29. And then closer to the end of the year, we will have, and I'm excited to say now, but it's kind of far away, but it's the inaugural San Diego Filipino Film Festival. It will be half virtual, half live, and we are going to populate the Liberty Station with and so we're excited about that. And so I'm pretty sure we will have New Americans Museum as partner as well, and the Arts District. So yeah. Yep.
Can you both remind just our audience real quick where they can find you on social media handles? And we'll have it in the chat, but I just always like to make sure we hear it.
For San Diego is SD Filipino Cinema on Instagram, SD Filipino Cinema on Facebook, and and then
ours is New Americans Museum on, I think, Instagram, and also on Twitter and our Facebook. You can find us easily. And then the email for any questions or visits or anything, contact us at namuseum.org.
Okay. And I see a quick question, Linda, about one of your recent projects. Is it focusing on veterans, or can you speak a little bit more about the focus of that project?
Sure. So, we brought an exhibition from the Smithsonian, a spectacular exhibition of 50 portraits of veterans, some of whom were immigrants, and others that were painted by an incredible artist. And we were able to present it at the museum, but then the galleries were closed. So we recorded everything in VR, and that's still available to the public. And you can get a sense of the stories in the exhibit. Inspired by that particular exhibit, which closed last October, we commissioned a local photographer, David Mong, to do images of immigrant veterans, some of whom were deported, by the way, to tell their stories and capture their commitment and their patriotism. And that's still in our community gallery. You can still view that. There are incredible light box photographs and mementos and memorabilia that they all shared. And happy to tour anybody, or you can have a self-tour as well. We're still keeping that limited, so they can visit that, and we will keep that through probably the end of June. And we've had talks by the artists and by some of the veterans as well for both. And there's also another series of talks we've hosted called NAM Voices of Hope, where we've hosted Holocaust survivors sharing inspiration around resilience and hope for the future. And those have been just incredible, and they're still available. The archive, which is a wonderful thing that we all have now, right? All this content that we've been building archivally, so you can listen to those stories first person, shared by some of our Holocaust survivors.
For anyone who hasn't joined one of those yet, I can't tell you how such a moving experience that is, and I know it's great to be able to see that. So it's just a wonderful resource for the community. But when you get a chance to actually join live, I encourage everybody here to speak to some of these folks and hear that intergenerational, those direct stories. It's such a rare opportunity, and then to be able to interact with them. You can just like here, ask them questions and feel connected to these things that many of us probably don't have that generational opportunity to as time and as we move throughout where we are in the country or the world. So
it's part of curriculum in some of the schools, certainly at the middle schools and in charter schools. So we've been getting requests to share. As a matter of fact, just this week I shared the links to those recorded Zooms. So as they're studying the Holocaust in some of the schools now, they get to listen to a local Holocaust survivor. In this case, it was our last one that spoke, Rose Schindler, and they got a copy of the book, and they were able to listen to her story firsthand in remote classrooms, or now that it's hybrid in some schools, hybrid. So for those of you in creative practice. You know, if you have videos or content, don't be shy about sharing it with the local schools and other practitioners, because it really allows another space for you to share the work that you're doing in the classroom when kids can visit the traditional spaces.
Well, I think it's hard to believe we've been here for a little while. You know, Benito, Linda, thank you so much for being a part of our special creative conversation event and sharing your insights firsthand. I can't wait to get back in person to you know, program and host some events with you guys. And I look forward to more continuing. So I'm gonna have to see if Benito can fit in an 11th seat for me. But no,
I have to bribe him now.
Yeah, right?
Give me a call.
You gotta know the right people.
We might have to do a remote one, Andrew.
Yeah.
Well, he's having his, we'll do his version, you know, remotely and broadcast him or something. I don't know.
You will be hungry because there is going to be food.
What's your last coffee talk? Yeah, I'm ready for more of the cuisine. Well, but thank you so much to the audience out there who joining live on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us and tuning in.
Thank you, Andrew.
We really look forward to seeing you back here, both virtually and hopefully later on this summer or later on in 2021 in person, to join us for our First Fridays or any of our other in-person programs when we get back to that. But thank you so much. And we hope to see you around.
Thank you for having us, Andrew, Linda, and Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew, Benito, everybody.
Yeah, big hug.
And everybody
Big hug.
who signed
Thank
on
you,
tonight.
everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.